You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network. Den säger knappt skramjungen ett gencellery.
Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 8 of the Angry Marks Rewind podcast here at AngryMarks.com, your number one source for pro wrestling and mixed martial arts news and information. I am your host, Rowan Unruh. If you want to get a hold of me on Twitter, very simply, at Rowan Unruh. If you want to email us for any show requests for review, you can hit me up at AngryMarksRewind@gmail.com. This is a very special episode for me. That we're in the weekend of Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor, and as such, I thought that we would go back and take a look at probably one of the most iconic Ring of Honor shows ever. And it's a show that I've been looking forward to re-watching. And I have a very special guest co-host this week. He is an accomplished grappler. He is a regular contributor to both AngryMarks.com and The Wrestling Observer. He's also the host of ComedySuplex.xyz and the Grappling Cooperative podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Peach Machine. Peach, how you doing today?
Broken leg, but yeah, I'm ready to rock, brother.
Okay, there we are. First of all, Peach, thanks so much for agreeing to come on this show. This is like I said, it's a show I've been very much looking forward to reviewing. First of all, before we begin, why don't you give us an update on the leg?
Oh man, so if you haven't heard, I was in a jiu-jitsu grappling tournament about a month ago, and in the midst of a heel hook, my tibia and fibula were snapped in half. And since then, I actually, yesterday, I got my leg cast cut in half. It was all the way up to my hips to toes for a month, which really, really sucked. And now I'm in a just below the knee cast. It's called a patellar stabilizing cast. So I can bend my knee, which has been delightful, especially when using the restroom. It's been a wonderful upgrade. But I'm still on crutches and still hobbling around and still sitting on my butt because I cannot put any weight on it. I can't believe it, man. I honestly thought, I was like, you know what? I'm kind of like John Cena in that I'm like super awesome and that, tons of hot chicks love me and I'm a millionaire. But, hopefully I have the super healing capacity of him as well. Turns out I don't. Turns out I am a mere mortal and I'm healing at the regular normal human rate.
So what you're saying is you're not going to be back and be a surprise entrance in the Royal Rumble?
I am not ruling that out, my friend. You never know. Always bring your gear. Where is the Royal Rumble this year?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I haven't heard, but I used to frequent the Royal Rumbles. I might go back this year, but who knows? Haven't been paid in about 4 weeks here, so my funds are a little tight. And if you would like to contribute to my GoFundMe, you can do that. It's called Snapped, SNAPPED, just like the sound. You can hear when you listen to the video. If you go to YouTube, you can search Omega MMA Leg Break, and you'll see which one's me real quickly. And it's not very long. It's not a long video. Did you watch it? I know many people could or were afraid to, but it's really not that graphic.
I have not, but what we will do is we will put a link in the description of this video. So if you're out there, if you got a couple bucks, send it to Peach. Let's help him out. Let's get him back on the mat where he belongs. So
that would be great. Yeah, it's probably going to be until I'm probably not going to be able to get out of my cast for another 6 weeks, and then after that it's going to be slow and go. So I'm hoping to be back on the mat before the end of the year. Maybe I'll be the one that steps up and fights Brock Lesnar, and who knows, win both those straps from Daniel Cormier. I don't know.
I did listen to your episode of the Grappling Cooperative where you discussed your color choice and how members of your family were very supportive of this color choice here.
Yeah, I went and got the cast with my dad the second time, and he's like, well, let me guess, you're going to pick pink again. And I was like, damn right I am, especially now because it's October and it's like cool to wear pink. So, I'm the hip guy with the broken pink cast.
Hey, Bret Hart wore pink for 30 years, brother.
That's exactly why I did it. I said, Dad, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Rep the pink and black. So you think I'm not going to do it? Damn right.
So what we're going to be looking at today is what I think a lot of people may consider the most famous single match in ROH history, Joe versus Kobashi. This took place October 1st, 2005. So I guess by the time this show airs, we're going to probably be close to the anniversary of that show. Would you personally say that this is probably their most famous match in ROH history?
You got to say that that's the most this match. You really do. It was the first, I mean, it won match of the year in the Wrestling Observer newsletter for sure. And it's, they did Joe and, Brian and Nigel and Brian won an hour and all those real famous matches. But the name of the show that we're talking about is Joe versus Kobashi. Like, that's it. Boom. That's all everyone paid to see. Absolutely. When you hit me up and you said, man, I want to review the show, I was like, it has been way too long since I watched that show. And you're dang right. I would love to rewatch it with you. And it was awesome. It was awesome. For sure, this is the most noteworthy, iconic show, as you put it, in ROH history.
If you were a long-time hardcore ROH fan, I think a lot of people sort of think that the Joe versus Punk series, it sort of resonates with them a little bit more, just because it's two of like their own kind of homegrown talent. And this was kind of a dream match with one of their homegrown guys versus someone who was, considered probably the best worker outside of North America, and I dare say the world in 2005. Now, I wasn't big into tape trading because I didn't have a very big collection, and downloading torrents wasn't really a thing yet. I did have a contact in the early 2000s who lived and keep in mind, I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and my contact was in a tiny little town in Toccoa, Georgia, that I met on a message board. And part of our deal was that I would send him a spindle of blank DVDs, and as part of the deal, he would keep half the DVDs and then send me back the shows, like the other half, with all the ROH shows on them. And we did this for about a year. And in Canada, when the Fight Network debuted in 2004, I believe, they had a working arrangement with ROH to broadcast their content on sort of a staggered schedule. So it was probably 2007 when this show aired here. And it was fun for me because I had seen all these shows before, and I had been a loyal ROH follower since 2002, and when the Fight Network would air these shows in chronological order, I kind of became the go-to guy in my group of wrestling fans, because I could tell them that, hey, wait until you see this show, or wait until you see that show. And
right.
This was some of the best wrestling that I think I've ever seen in a decade, which was a very fresh alternative to the WWE at this point. If you remember that sort of time frame between 2003 and 2008, WWE was just death.
Oh my God, I do remember that. Great Khali was there. Oh yeah, it was well, who was the guy he was feuding with? Not Batista. Yeah, but yeah, lots of absolute garbage going on in WWE at the time for sure.
Lots of hornswoggle, lots of divas.
Yes.
So
what was the cage? What was his cage called?
The Punjabi prison. Great sight lines on that one.
Hey, not as bad as the red Hell in a Cell cage, but yeah, pretty bad.
Now, you are a member of Honor Club, right?
I am, yes.
Okay, now, was this show available on Honor Club? Because
no.
As far as I know, anything prior to the HDNet years wasn't available, or it hasn't been uploaded yet. I know they're in the process of negotiating with them, or they're redubbing a lot of these old mid-2000 shows because they have to get rid of all the copyright music.
Yeah, no, it's not on there. You're right. It's that whole period. It's not up there at all. There's a few years in the beginning, and then all the current, like the last 7 or 8 years. But yeah, this time span is not up there. And it was funny you said that you sent your buddy a stack of DVDs. I mean, you can't give DVDs away in 2018. No one wants a DVD, and those things were like gold in 2005. Really.
Man, and I remember, I would ask my wife if she would go to the store and pick me up a pack of blank DVDs, and she came back with a pack of blank CDs, and It was on.
Yeah. You said, hey, we're gonna watch this show. I'll send you, a Dropbox. And I was like, I actually have this DVD. I bought this DVD, and of course I found the case, no DVD in there. And then I thought, I don't even have a means to watch a DVD if I found it. I don't have one. I don't have a DVD player anymore, so I'm glad you sent me the rip of it. But yeah, not available on YouTube either. The main event was available, but I couldn't see the rest of the show, and the rest of the show is phenomenal as well.
Yeah, like you talk about this sort of being like a one-match show, but top to bottom, this show was absolutely incredible, and this was just another in a series of really great shows that ROH was putting on in 2005. Like, as great as this match, like this main event was, and as great as the show was, I don't think this was even the best show of 2005.
Man, you're probably right. Like, this is when I started kind of getting in, not tape trading, but DVD sort of collecting. And yeah, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but you're right. Like, this was a real great string of shows for ROH.
Mm-hmm. Like, this was the year that Punk was finished in Ring of Honor, And they did a great heel sort of character with him signing his WWE contract on the ROH title while he was world champ. You've got.
I remember that angle. Was this the summer of Punk?
This was not the summer of Punk. This was I guess to ROH fans, this was the summer of Punk.
Okay, that's what I was referring to. Yeah, their summer of Punk. I know WWE redid it with the pipe bomb and stuff like that, but this was the year that they really pushed Punk from, they got him from TNA and really made him a money player.
So I guess we'll just start from the beginning. We get
All right.
Claudio Castagnoli, and he's taking on Colt Cabana. Claudio comes out just looking like the best used car salesman that you've ever seen. He's wearing he's wearing like this sequined money jacket and his sparkly tie, and he's so far off from his current image.
Yes, yeah, he has got a greasy ponytail. Oh, he's got a buttoned-up collared shirt. I mean, what was he trying to be, like a butler or something?
He was
just like classy.
He was doing this money gimmick, and I don't really. This was one of his first shots in the company. I know that he had a debut match with Nigel McGuinness a couple months before, and he's not someone that I really paid a lot of close attention to at the time, because he seemed like a guy that they were churning out these guys from their training school left and right. But Claudio obviously he was a little bit higher up than the Pelly Primos and the Shane Hagedorns of the world, and he's taking on Colt Cabana, who looks exactly the same.
Yeah, I don't know if that was good or bad. Colt put on some weight since then and then lost it, so I guess it's good.
Yeah, Colt comes out, and the first thing he does is he gives a high five to a security guard who doesn't really know what to make of Colt. And then he dances down to the entrance, and my dream has always been to see this particular entrance at a WrestleMania, but I guess we'll never see that.
Well, never say never. Yeah, Colt could be back. Colt is an incredible talent, and especially now that he's slimmed down a little bit and he's made himself really valuable on the indie scene. I don't know. I mean, he's probably not going back to WWE anytime soon, and probably doesn't want to either. But yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan of Cabana. His antics are top notch.
I think he's the kind of guy that he doesn't need to go to WWE. His act will get over wherever he goes, and I think because of his current legal issues, WWE is not going to be in too big of a rush to sign him. So this was during the time in the middle of a major blood feud between Colt Cabana and Homicide, and we're told at the outset by the announcers that Homicide and Colt were actually not allowed to wrestle each other because threats were being called into the ROH offices.
Oh yeah, Dave Prazak was on the headset here, and yeah, he was putting over that feud with Homicide, and we'll get to this later, obviously, when they do come to a head, but yeah, Castagnoli and Castagnoli and stuff, so they hadn't even. I mean, this was real fresh for Claudio.
Yeah, I don't think they had really nailed a pronunciation yet, so
yeah.
So during the match, some associates of Homicide, they're chirping from ringside, trying to distract Cabana. These were referred to as Homicide's thugs. So Claudio with some European uppercuts. Claudio lifts Cabana up for a delayed vertical suplex, and Colt countered into a small package for a near fall. Colt hits a nice moonsault press for a 2. We get the first of 2 shake, rattle, and rolls on this show. Colt has Claudio in the corner. He hits some dusty elbows, and he tries for the Colt 45, which if you haven't seen it, it's like a double. Colt lifts you up in like a double underhook suplex position into like an overhead backbreaker, and then drops to his knees like the Rack Attack.
Yeah, there was a lot of super dangerous moves on this show that are still prevalent on the indie scene, but far less. I mean, these guys were head drop central was this show.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that wouldn't make it past the agents in 2018.
Right.
Then Colt gets distracted by someone who is standing in the back row of the floor. He's just about ready to hit his finish, but then he looks off in the far, far distance, and there's a guy with a bandana over his face, and that distracted him. And that was enough for Claudio to hit the Ricola bomb and get the win. I don't know what the time.
Yeah, they were pushing this as a huge show for Claudio, a huge win and a way to make his name. And he'd go on to have a bunch of really great matches, and they'd really benefit from him especially with the smaller guys. I mean, I remember some matches Claudio had with Matt Sydal where he would just fling that dude up in the air and spin him like a piece of pie above his head, and it was just amazing. Castagnoli's a hell of a worker.
Yeah, guys like Sydal and Jay Lethal, these guys would bump like crazy for him. And then later on in like 2009, 2010, they would hook him up with Chris Hero, and I believe they had a run as the ROH Tag Champs. But yeah, so speaking of Seidel, he's up next in for some reason, a three-way with Fallen Angel, Chris Daniels, and Azrael. Do you remember Azrael?
Yes. As soon as that guy came out, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the match. This is the famous match. This is the do you know what I'm going to say here?
I think
the line. Are we allowed to say the line?
You can say whatever you like.
You fucking suck, Azrael. Just the screechiest, perfectly timed. It was someone in the front row or something yells, "You fucking suck, Azrael," at like the complete dead time, and Seidel steps off of his shoulders and nails a tornado DDT on Daniels. It was beautiful.
Yeah, the crowd was very well mic'd here, and we're going to figure this out later on during the Nigel match, where there was a lot of heckling that was clearly audible during this show. Aside from Joe and Kobashi, I think Daniels was probably the most popular guy on this show. There were Fallen Angel chants even before his music starts playing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very fast-paced opening. Lots of typical three-way spots for this time. Seidel tries a tornado DDT on Daniels early, but it gets turned into a sit-out powerbomb by Azrael for a near fall. The crowd starts chanting "Fuck him up, Daniels," and he did.
A lot of the spots you've seen become staples of Daniels' game. The bulldog and clothesline combo on the Fallen Angels or the Angels Wing and the BME and all those spots. Yeah, and it was a different era for Chris Daniels. Like he wasn't as he is now, the almighty Chris Daniels, but he was just as good then as he is now. Probably better then, but I mean, Daniels is a guy that always impressed me entire career, and he hasn't slowed down a bit.
No, he's the ageless wonder, and every time I see him, I'm wondering, oh man, I'm hoping this isn't the match where he finally gets crippled. So Seidel and Azrael, they start briefly working together, trying to eliminate Daniels. I guess they figure, because this is elimination rules, it's not first fall wins, which was nice because then you don't get guys breaking up pins for no reason. Azrael hits a top rope double stomp as Daniels was draped over the second rope backwards. We get Seidel with a slingshot over the top rope to the floor into a Rana on Daniels, who was sort of wandering around ringside.
Here's a little note for you on that. The first person Seidel ever did that move with was me in a one of our independent matches back in 2000 or 1999. I forget when, but yeah, I was like, why don't you slingshot over, land on my shoulders, and then give me the Rana? And we fucking pulled it off.
So you were the precursor to this.
Yeah, I don't take all of the credit for Seidel's success, but just 95% of it.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah. He's about 50 feet from my door right now. So he's like, "Hey, when you go on the show, make sure you talk good about me." I was like, I'm gonna tell the truth, bitch.
Well, and he's another guy. It's been 13 years. He barely looks like he's even aged.
Yeah, and turns out he's 57. Spoiler alert. Great genetics.
Seidel hits Azrael with a top rope overhead belly to belly for an elimination. That looked like some sort of fucked up Spanish fly, but it seemed to work.
No, that was his move. I've taken that move too, and it was the belly to belly flipping belly to belly. Yeah, it was like the single man Spanish fly. And I gotta say, that fan might have been incorrect. Azrael did not fucking suck in this match. He was pretty good.
Did you catch Azrael while he was doing the Special K gimmick?
I remember the Special K. Yeah, I really liked them. I don't remember him particularly, though.
Yeah, for those that don't know, in 2002, and in ROH's infancy, there was a stable called Special K, and it included Azrael. It included the guy we now know as Jay Lethal, who back then was known as Hydro, and a bunch of other guys, which I haven't heard from since. And basically, they were this group of young, entitled, rich kid ravers, and they would do ecstasy all the time and then wrestle. So.
Yeah, it was a great gimmick, man. They were like cutting edge with that shit, like acknowledging drug use and like using it as a gimmick. Special K, I had no problem with them.
Yeah, they had some great stuff with the Carnage crew, and they were like specialties in these multi-person matches. They would have been great in New Japan in 2018.
Yeah, or like in Dragon's Gate, like flipping around with all those crazy guys.
Daniels hitting this dope-looking Death Valley driver for a 2. Seidel then hits a standing moonsault. Hits a super high crossbody for a near fall, And the ending comes when Seidel flips over during a backdrop attempt, and Daniels immediately catches him with the Angel's Wings for the elimination and the win.
Yeah, and not that this match wasn't incredible, because it was really good, but the crowd here was so forgiving all night. Like, it didn't matter. Every single thing they did, they were just erupting, and it was such a different presence than different crowd presence than you see like on ROH pay-per-views now, where it's really silent and really quiet, and they only pop for the super big stuff. This was a hot crowd.
They're very forgiving, and I think this crowd would have accepted pretty much anything. It was a really fun match. I think it would have been better just off as a one-on-one. Azrael, I think, kind of looked out of place here, but despite some fun spots, I don't think he added a ton of value to this match.
That's usually what happens when there's a guy that looks like that. It's like, oh, we got this extra guy standing backstage. Put him in a three-way.
We cut to a backstage interview with James Gibson. He talks about this being his last weekend in ROH before he leaves to become part of J&J Security.
yeah, to get the big rub.
And he's been allowed to pick his opponent. And then he pulls out a promo straight out of 1983 when he says, Jimmy Yang was coming to the territory, and I wanted him. And then they cut to the left, and Jimmy Yang is standing right there next to him, looking like the coolest sous chef you've ever seen in his long white sleeve coat.
Yes, he did. This was great. This was a great promo by both guys. And I've been recently going back and watching. I'm trying to punish myself further, while I have this broken leg. So I'm rewatching every WCW pay-per-view in reverse order. And so I've seen lots of the Young Dragons and 3 Count and lots of Noble and Yang recently. And yeah, I got to say they were great in WCW, and they were even better here.
Yeah. You advised me yesterday that you were busy watching WCW Sin. And my first thought was, dude, it's just a broken leg. There's no need to, don't do anything drastic.
The same. What sucked is I was trying to catch a GIF of it on my phone, and that spot didn't even air on the pay-per-view. All of a sudden, they cut back to the ring, and Sid's flopping his foot around, and Scott Steiner's going like, "Oh shit, what am I supposed to do?" Just starts kicking him in the face, and as someone who just broke their leg in that exact same place, I was like, "Oh, don't touch him! Don't touch him! He's dying right now." That's why I wanted to watch.
So you were showing a lot of empathy for Sid.
Yeah, I love Sid.
I think you liked this promo a whole lot better than I did. When they cut to Jimmy Yang, I thought Yang basically tells him that. Well, first he calls him Jamie-san, so thus acknowledging their past as a tag team. He said, they won't edit us, and it's Yang time. And I thought this was just as wooden on delivery as you could ever get. And I thought it was ironic that Yang said that they're not going to use the edit button, because I thought his portion of the promo was just hideous and it needed to be edited.
Yeah, his part sucked. I was talking about Noble's part. It was great. Or James Gibson. But I just couldn't stop thinking about our Cruiserweight Champion, or the Trailer Park Cruiserweight Champion with, what was her name? Nadia?
Nydia.
Or something? Nydia. Yeah, Nydia.
The tough enough girl.
Yes, yeah. Country.
So it's time for the ROH tag titles. Well, first of all, Sal Ronaldo and Tony Mamaluke come down to the ring. And I guess what we're being told is that they were actually scheduled to have a singles match. And the champs, BJ Whitmer and Jamie Jacobs, have an open contract. And so Mamaluke and Ronaldo thought, well, hey, why instead of us fighting each other, let's sign on this dotted line and let's get a tag title match. Good for them for being proactive.
Yeah, if you can't beat them, join them, I guess. And Tony Mamaluke was coming off a WCW run as well. And prior to that, the ECW run, and he was known for just like the hellacious bump spots that he was willing to die. And I know Sal Ronaldo too. He was a bump machine, but you could tell this match was probably the weakest on the show, in my opinion. What do you think?
I'm not sure. I kind of like this match. I like the sort of the big man, small man dynamic that Whitmer and Jacobs had going into this. They come in and Jacobs is doing this sort of comedy mini Bruiser Brody gimmick, complete with the fuzzy boots. He tried to step over the top rope and into the ring, and then once he finally got in, he did the Ultimate Warrior rope shake, and then he and Whitmer did the Diesel Shawn Michaels pose, but the bigger man, Whitmer, was doing the Shawn Michaels roll. So
yeah. I like the goofiness of those two for sure.
So there's an early grappling exchange between BJ and Mamaluke, and Mamaluke was trying these different versions of the cross-arm breaker. Now, Peach, as a grappler, what did you think of Whitmer's grappling defense?
As not very technically proficient, I'll say that. You can't let that arm get extended. Game over.
I'm watching this and it's like, BJ could stand for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Whitmer. Yes?
Or Brazilian juice head. I don't know.
So Mom Luke would try numerous different jiu-jitsu spots, and Whitmer would just power out of them multiple times. He gave him the backland lift, tossed him into the corner. How come guys don't do that nowadays? It's like, if a guy is just, he's trapped in an armbar, just pick him up and slam him into the cage. Seems simple enough, because the guy will let go, I'm sure.
It's not that simple. It seems like it's just that, but the second that you try and extend and pull your arm out, if you're actually creating the leverage for that guy to straighten your forearm and get that elbow lock on your arm. So you have to be super deep to do that. The guy has to be like you got to really stack that guy's knees into his forehead to get that power. Because if you just try and stand up and pull your arm out and hope the guy comes with you, you're going to get your arm broken.
Tony Mamaluke, I know you're listening. Take heed, my friend. Next time, what's he
up to?
I'm not sure. Yeah, he's probably working in a car lot somewhere.
Yeah,
maybe doing indie
supermarket.
Spots. I was an ECW tag champ.
Yeah, hell yeah, FBI.
So Mamaluke and Sal, they tried this tandem move. I don't know what it was, but Mamaluke tried to lift Sal up and then sort of drop him, and the net result was Sal giving a shoot earthquake splash, coming right down with all of his weight, right on Jacob's back unprotected. That looked like it fucking sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Sal's a small guy, but Jacobs is even smaller, so that looked like it would mess up a fella's back. Whitmer tries to get the tag. He walks wild with forearms until Mamaluke takes out his knees with a drop kick. Mamaluke tries a top rope DDT, but Whitmer catches him and gives him an exploder into the corner. Mamaluke hits a code breaker on Whitmer, so I guess in 2005 that was the first time we would have seen that.
Yes, I thought that myself. I was like, damn, that was probably one of the first first spots of that ever. Now we see it 3 times in a match, and it's like not even a near fall.
Yeah. Now it's just a transition spot.
Yeah.
Sal goes for a springboard crossbody, but gets speared in midair by Jacobs. That looked like a cool spot. That
was awesome, yeah.
The finish comes. The champs they attempt this Doomsday Rana. So if you just, picture BJ had who did he have?
He had Jacobs on his shoulders.
Jacobs on his shoulders.
No, Jacobs did the Rana. It was Sal was on the shoulders, right?
Oh, I forgot now.
BJ had Sal up on his shoulders.
Right.
Right? Yeah. And then Jimmy jumped off the top turnbuckle and hit the Rana.
Right. And I thought for sure this should have been a finishing spot. But
yeah.
No, it was just a 2 count. It was one of many spots that should have been a finish, but the ropes were just really close. Can we talk about the proximity of the ring to the crowd?
Oh my God, that was like a staple of ROH back in this era. It was like, how much space should we give them? How about 16 inches? And these guys, I mean, we'll talk about this later in the Jimmy Rave match and the Roderick Strong match, but these guys were diving into the crowd. It was so close. It was so dangerous. God, it was unnecessary.
Yeah, if you just picture it's like there's the ring, and the ramp to the ring has like the standard amount of space, but around 2 sides of the ring, I guess perpendicular to the hard camera, there was literally only 1.5 feet of space in between. And keep in mind, you've got photographers, you've got camera guys trying to navigate their way through, and I'm shocked that no one just got in the way and, no innocent personnel were taken out. The finish comes when Sal and Mamaluke pick up Jacobs on their shoulder, like they're, like celebrating that Jacobs just won something, and they hit what I can only describe as a double one-winged angel. And then,
oh my God!
And then both guys covered him for the win, and they called it the Rubik's Cube Driver.
So, it was a great finish. It really was. It was super cool. They had him up on the shoulders, like you said, like they're hoisting the Gatorade bucket, about to dump it on the coach. Instead, it was a person. They tucked his head underneath. Yeah, one-winged angel with two guys. It was a great finish. I'm surprised we haven't seen this since. Probably because it's incredibly dangerous.
I would think so. This is one of those moves that I expected to see in 2K18.
Oh, the video game.
Right. So we've got new champs. I thought this was a great match. The crowd did seem rather unimpressed. As soon as the match ends, they do a screen swipe and they cut right to the next match. But this time,
I don't hate that.
During a title change, I think it was a good idea because they let that sort of moment sink in with the crowd. They let it sink in with the TV audience. Right before they do that, though, BJ snatches the titles out of their hands, only to just give them back to them. Jacobs looked pretty messed up as he fell out of the ring, and I think he had to be held back by Whitmer. I don't know if he was selling or if he was legitimately fucked up, but he looked like he needed a Tylenol.
I'm sure he had something a little bit stronger in his bag.
So that takes us to the ROH Pure Championship. What are your memories of the Pure title?
This is something I've debated a lot with guys in the company recently, actually, in ROH. I'm like, dude, you guys should bring back that Pure title. It's something different. It's unique. It's unique to you, and it's a nice secondary title. I mean, they have their TV title, but what are the parameters for a TV title? There's nothing really set in stone. I like this belt because it had some different rules, and I thought this match was really good, and it was pretty short, but I always liked the Pure title matches.
Yeah, so I guess ROH thought they needed a secondary title. This was prior to the TV title being introduced. So we'll give you just a bit of history about the Pure title. It was created at the second anniversary show, and it was awarded to the winner of an 8-man tournament, which was AJ Styles. AJ had to vacate the title when TNA ended their working relationship with ROH because of the Feinstein investigation. Nigel then defeated Samoa Joe for the title at the end of August in Buffalo. Now, matches for the Pure Championship were conducted under Pure Wrestling rules, which basically means each guy was able to have 3 rope breaks to stop submission holds or pinfalls. After a wrestler exhausted his rope breaks, any submission or pin attempt under the ropes by an opponent were considered legal. There were no closed fist punches allowed to the face, only open hand slaps or chops. Punches to any part of the body were fine. A Japanese 20 count on the floor.
Yeah.
Unlike other championships, ROH Pure title could change hands on a DQ or a countout. Like you said, I thought this was an interesting concept. It's the complete opposite of every other promotion that always had like the overexposed hardcore division, especially for a fan base that was primarily in the northeastern U.S. that was still kind of getting over this ECW hangover from a couple years back.
Right. It was kind of the opposite of that, right? It was like, hey, we're going to give you some wrestling. Now, some of the matches that ended up kind of being in this, what I call take your turn wrestling, where it's like super slow and like, all right, you do a move. And then I always do this in Nigel's voice. All right, Mike, you do a move first and then I'm going to counter it. And then I'll do one and then you counter that. And it's like that style. This match didn't look like that, but a lot of times it kind of did look like that. It was like, all right, here's my arm. Do what you got to do. And now I'll undo it.
Oh, I guess we should mention it's Nigel McGuinness versus Jay Lethal. I don't know if we said that yet or not.
This was some of Nigel's best mic work, and he's Todd Sinclair's going over the rules at the start, and the crowd starts blah 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 and calling stuff, yelling at, snipping at McGuinness, and he grabs the mic and he goes, "Please, people, please show Todd Sinclair some respect and let him explain the rules to Jay Lethal."
Mr. Sinclair.
That was great. Oh, Todd Sinclair, yeah. So he said, this was some of Nigel's best heat on the mic I've ever seen him get.
So the ref is explaining the rules, and just like you said, Nigel starts to cut a heel promo on New York, making fun of the local sports teams. Said that Americans only invented baseball because you're no good at cricket.
That was great.
I popped for that one. Then he tries to steal Bret Hart's catchphrase, and this was a cardinal sin to these fans.
Oh yeah,
and
he made fun of the Yankees.
I think Bret had either just done or was about to do a series of appearances for the company. So maybe this was kind of setting the table for some sort of confrontation. Outside of this, Nigel wasn't a particularly strong promo. If you look at Nigel today on the NXT broadcast, he's kind of revered as this guy who, came up through the indies. He became kind of legendary. So in a vacuum, you sort of get this impression that he's always been awesome. But I think a lot of guys that we see on the rosters today that were still really green, especially on the mic, Nigel's a good example of someone who over the years became pretty good and early on. But I thought this was maybe a little bit sloppy. So maybe you enjoyed this promo a little bit more than I did.
Well, I'm a friend of Nigel's, and I took a screenshot of this match and I texted him earlier today and I said, "Who is this blonde-haired, puffy red British lobster in this match against 1980s Ice Cube?" And it was, he compared to what he looks like now, like he's monstrous. He was 235 pounds, and I said, "What were you eating back then?" He said 8,000 calories, 400 grams of protein a day. I was like, well, damn, no shit.
Yeah, he was looking large when he came out.
Yeah.
So
that's what you had to do, though. They were, this was that was the industry in 2005. It was a body guy still thing. It was mass monsters.
We get Lethal coming out. He's going to go chop Nigel in the corner, and Nigel just walked out of the corner. That was funny.
Yes. And he blocked the chops with his forearms. Yeah, there was a lot of good stuff here. But, yeah, a little sloppy at times. But not one of either of these men's best matches for sure. But I did like it.
Yeah, despite being the heel, the crowd still politely clapped when he was outworking Lethal. Nigel does the headstand in the corner, like Ultimo Dragon, and Lethal decides, I'm still going to run into this. and he does, and he gets mule kicked like a son of a bitch.
Yeah, it's just too tempting. There's that guy, he's upside down the corner. I can get him. Too tempting.
I have to run in.
Yeah. Oh, Jay. I like Jay's puka shell necklace here, too.
Lethal was tied up in his tree of woe, and Nigel soccer kicks the hell out of him right in the back. And the announcers say that all that training with David Beckham is paying off.
That was a good line, yeah. On
the opposite side, we're going to get David Beckham, shown doing, I don't know, the Tower of London to some of his teammates. I want to see that.
That would be great. He runs into the net, springs out, big clothesline, bicycle kick goal.
We get Lethal hitting a spine buster, and for the first time since 1995, someone actually hit the spine buster, and the announcers don't mention Arn Anderson.
Yeah, Seidel was watching that match with me, and he's like, he saw that exact spot. He's like, holy shit, I would never take that move right now. I was like, I wouldn't. Spine busters are brutal. Anytime, like that Alabama slam where your head gets like whipped backwards. Oh my god, yeah, it's not good. But this looked devastating.
Yeah, anything where you don't have full control, it's gonna fuck you up.
For sure.
Nigel is locked in some sort of submission. I can't really describe it. It's like Lethal had the legs grapevine, and his arms were. Anyway,
it was some sort of make up your own move. I'm glad this is no longer in the Jay Lethal arsenal because it was stupid.
Yeah, it was a creator wrestler submission hold. Yes. And Nigel was forced to use one of his rope breaks. Bobby Cruz then announced that Lethal had used a rope break, and then he had to correct himself, and this crowd gave him the static for this.
Oh yeah, you fucked up. It doesn't matter who you are. You fuck up, you're getting the you fucked up chant. Even you, Bobby Cruz.
To this crowd, yeah, you don't want to mess anything up. Nigel gets into a scrum with the ref. Nigel has come to the ring the last couple of shows with this iron. It's like you're going to iron your dress shirt type of iron, and it's got the Union Jack painted on it. So there's this scrum, the referee's distracted. Instead of just clobbering the Lethal with this iron, he sets it up in the corner, he grabs Lethal by the head, I'm sure he calmly explains to him, I'm about to slam you into this. And then he does, and then he gets the win.
Yeah, it was weird. It was kind of like something happened, like they used the rope break, and then boom, right to the finish. So I remember when Nigel was doing this, I teased him. I said, dude, instead of hitting somebody with it, what you need to do is go to the ring, plug it in, get it hot, and then spin somebody like in the groin or something with it. I think that would have been a better. And then they could come out the next day like on their chest with like a big iron imprint or something.
We could have like their crotch all taped up from the burn marks.
Yeah, see, that'd be good.
Oh, man. We got so many ideas here.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time I would kind of shit on a finish like this, but with this character as being the, quote, pure champion, cheating to win, I thought it was fantastic. I think the guys got a lot out of very little in this.
Yes, and then Nigel got on the mic and said he really appreciates all the support from the fans in New York City as they're booing the shit out of him.
Yeah, they were ready to murder this guy. Up next, we've got Jimmy Rave taking on Roderick Strong. Jimmy Rave is accompanied by Prince Nana and Jade, who, I should mention, both Jade Chung and Allison Danger, who came with Christopher Daniels, both Canadian, so shout out to them.
Okay.
I'm grasping at anything I can relate to here. So the angle in this is that Jade Chung, who's a beautiful young lady, she's basically Prince Nana's slave to the Embassy, which is the name of their faction. She's brought out on a leash by Nana. She's wearing a sack. She's being used as a literal stepping stool for Jimmy Rave to enter the ring with, and apparently is also the target of several beatings by Nana. So this was Mark Marrow and Sable times 20 with no network TV constrictions.
This would not fly in any capacity today.
So, all right, USA Network, I got an idea for you. So we have this girl. She's a foreign-looking girl, but she's going to be a slave. What do you think?
Yeah, we're going to abuse her. What do you think about that? Yeah, that would not be good on any capacity. But, they could maybe do it in Saudi Arabia.
It's like, wow.
What, too soon?
Let's see, what advertisers can we get with this? Jimmy Rave has such a punchable face.
Oh, I love Jimmy Rave. Like, I got a chance to work him a few times in TNA when they were doing that stupid-ass explosion show. And he's a great guy, really is. And I don't know what he's doing today, but I wish him the best because he was always very kind to me and always an incredible athlete in the ring. So I love this character because, yes, I mean, it's like, why is Prince Nana with this guy who looks like a 1995 rollerblading bad guy?
Right, like you would think that someone who looks like him would be, tailor-made for this, teeny bopper babyface spot. I think because of that, he made such a great heel, and the crowd just hated him. He's probably the most hated guy on the show.
Yeah, he got monster heat.
Instead of doing the streamer gimmick, crowd is throwing toilet paper rolls at him. I think there were a couple of shows where the crowd would throw these toilet paper rolls at him, and Jimmy would get so upset he'd fire back. And I think there were a few times where he would nail like some kid in the face. So there may have been some legal issues somewhere down the road when it came to this toilet paper throwing thing.
Yeah, don't throw stuff into the crowd.
Strong was just coming off winning the Survival of the Fittest tournament the previous week, and they were giving him a monster push. Now, last week he won a 6-person match, which included Austin Aries, Chris Daniels, Colt Cabana, Jay Lethal, and Samoa Joe. So they appear to have some big plans for Roddy. There's a big chop exchange, and Rave bails to the floor. This is where we kind of notice how close the rings are. So if you were sitting in the front row, you'd probably be able to reach over the rail and touch the ring. And
easily.
They play up the fact that ROH was going to announce their MVP, and the two top contenders were James Gibson and Roddy Strong. And this was the weekend that was going to be an integral part of that decision. Now, this is in October. Is that when ROH's fiscal year ends? Why would, teams don't normally announce their MVPs until the end of the season?
Yeah, who cares? Like, why is April WrestleMania season? Whatever. You know what I mean? Who cares? Just had to pick a date. Maybe they were trying to coincide with the World Series.
That could be, yeah.
That's baseball. That's American baseball. I know you're Canadian. You confuse it with cricket, but we hit things with a stick too.
Well, we hit vulcanized rubber with sticks on ice while wearing knife blades. Well, yeah. I don't, but real men do.
No, right. It's funny they announced these two guys as the MVPs because Roderick Strong is just Jamie Noble, 8 years younger.
Well, and the two of those guys were going to work the following night. The announcers point out that both they, Matt Hardy, and Mick Foley all have had enough of the mistreatment of Jade. It's like, nice job for, no one doing anything about it. These legendary WWF superstars who probably could get a lot of stroke in the company, and they can't stop a domestic violence angle.
Right. Yeah, it was 2005.
Indie shows.
There was no Me Too movement yet.
We get the second Shake, Rattle, and Roll on this show. So Honky Tonk is getting a lot of love on this Kobashi show.
Yeah, he is. I mean, this was just full of typical Roddy Strong moves, backbreakers, backdrop suplexes. Lots of Roddy showing his athleticism here. And he does that double back. He said, up on the shoulders, tosses the guy up, hits like the lung blower from the belly. And I remember Roddy told me this. He said Jamie saw him do that, and when Roderick came to the back, he said, "Hey, sorry, buddy, but I gotta take that to TV," meaning I'm gonna steal that move and take it to WWE.
Don't suppose there'd be anything that anyone could do about it?
No.
We're just gonna cut right to the finish here. Prince Nana throws a chair into the ring. The ref takes it away, and while Rave is distracted, Strong, like you said, hits the fireman's carry lung blower or gutbuster, slaps on the stronghold, and Rave taps out immediately. And I do like the fact that, he gets put in a submission hold, and he doesn't wait 30 seconds to dramatically tap out. It's a submission hold. It would render someone dead in real life. So tap out immediately. Make it look good.
That's exactly what you got to do. And ROH did a great job of kind of protecting submission holds, and they did another one later in the night too. And yeah, if you get in a submission hold, you tap out because that's it. Because if you stay in that, there's no like armbar. I mean, you'll see it with people who have really flexible joints, but if you get a submission hold and it's locked on precisely, it's done.
Yeah, you're not going to wait 45 seconds and slowly try to reach the ropes and then decide to tap out.
Right.
And then the star of this segment, Prince Nana. Now, let me preface this by saying I do not condone murder. I am anti-murder. Nana.
I'm neutral on it. I don't want to commit either way.
I can go either way with that. So post-match, Nana starts to attack Strong while he's celebrating. He's telling Jade to get in the ring so he and Rafe can choke him with the leash. And Nana gets on the microphone and he's screaming, "Kill him! I want him to die!" And
yeah,
he was
monster heat here too.
He was so animated, and he was just awesome. Now, Jade can finally take no more of this, and only now is she able to remove the collar and run wild. She kicks Jimmy in the dick, she punches Nana in the dick, and now is free. And then Roddy cleans house. Roddy then makes a challenge for the Embassy to take on Generation Next in a steel cage warfare match. Now, this was not something that ROH did a lot of. They didn't do a whole lot of gimmick matches, so for them to announce a steel cage match was a big deal. But that match took place on December 3rd, so there were 7 shows in between this show and the steel cage match. The slave was freed, Jade and Roddy embrace, and in storyline, they're going to hook up.
I don't think they ever actually did in real life. I don't know.
This might require some investigation. Everyone stop what you're doing. I'm going to go to Wikipedia. No.
This was a great like freeing moment. It was the big break free moment, and she threw the robe in the guy's face, and everyone went crazy for it, and yeah, it was a fun moment.
We get the intermission where the robot announcer they say it's intermission. We get a shot of Lacey in the ring, but we have no sound, but we get a voiceover guy. I don't know if it was Lenny Leonard or if it was Gabe Sapolsky, but they say that tomorrow we're going to have the debut of the new Lacey's Angels, and they plugged the show in Philadelphia where they're going to announce a new commissioner. And did you happen to remember who the new commissioner was?
Not a clue.
Well, at first they teased that it was going to be Paul Bearer, of all people. And then Jim Cornette came out and brought some sanity to the show and said it would be him. So he saved that segment.
I don't know what they were trying to do here, because where was this even airing? It wasn't like it was on TV and people were going to tune in the next night. It was a little bit weird.
Yeah, I think the purpose of this was to push their Straight Shootin' DVD series.
Oh, okay.
So I know that Cornette and Paul Bearer had done a series of shoot interviews, and immediately after this segment, they showed there was an ad for the ROH merch catalog, I believe, and then they plugged the show in 2 weeks featuring the brand new ROH champ Bryan Danielson taking on Austin Aries. And now it's an intermission match. We get Ricky Reyes with a jacked up Julius Smokes. He was one of my favorite managers in the 2000s, and he's taken on the sacrificial lamb Pelle Primo, who's just an ROH school graduate. So,
oh boy, he got a graduation ceremony. He got murdered.
Reyes killed him quickly, set up a powerbomb, Dragon Sleeper for the submission. This lasted about 40 seconds. It was a nice change. I thought, some nice instant gratification for an intermission match. Not everything has to go 15 minutes, and we don't need to have everyone fighting for match of the night. So it's a nice way to cleanse the palate after intermission for a guy that they're trying to rehab.
Yeah, and perfect squash match length. Sometimes the Yankees play the Marlins. That's what happens.
I wonder what Pelle Primo's doing these days.
He's probably working with Tony Mamaluke at that supermarket.
Paper or plastic? He just becomes like that fast food kid on The Simpsons.
Oh yeah, squeaky voice team.
I'm sorry, sir. Your taco fell in the deep fryer. I'll get it. Oh.
This comes out of my paycheck.
We get Jimmy Yang taking on James Gibson in the Battle of the Young Dragons. I thought Gibson had the coolest, most over-entrance theme song ever. What did you think of A Country Boy Can Survive?
I'm not a country fan, but this definitely worked in the moment for sure. This match, the crowd was very forgiving of lots of stuff, like we said earlier, especially this match. It didn't seem as like it was one of their best exchanges, but yeah, a country boy can't survive. The old Matt Hughes entrance, and so I appreciated it.
Yeah, Gibson was absolutely beloved by this crowd. He probably spent the first 2 minutes just walking around the ring. He high-fived every single person in this room. They start chanting, "Please don't go. Please don't abandon ROH so you can be on Velocity for 9 months."
I forgot about Velocity.
So I did some research. After this show, he worked one more ROH match, and then he was on the WWE roster. But his first win outside of Velocity and Sunday Night Heat was on June 27th, 2016, in a squash match with Kid Cash. So he spent close to a year before actually getting
you said
win.
2016. You meant 2006, right?
2006, I'm sorry. The announcers point out their history as tag partners in WCW. There's a lot of chain wrestling to start. They were fighting over wrist locks and headlock takedowns. There were some nice arm drag sequences. Jimmy hit a cool-looking series of kicks. Started to work for Kimura. How did you like his form here?
Yeah, Jimmy's Yang stuff was really good. He landed, the kicks when you throw a kick in pro wrestling, like you really don't want to like connect foot to face. So it's all right to go like calf to
Brie
head.
Bella.
Yeah, right, exactly. Or you end up with that. So yeah, as far as pro wrestling, he wouldn't last in a UFC fight, but yeah, fine stuff here.
I thought a lot of what both guys did was nice and crisp. Gibson hits this suicide dive to the outside, sending both guys careening into the front row. Back in the ring, Gibson attempts this top rope double axe, and Yang catches him in midair with this spinning wheel kick. That looked kind of cool. A really nice looking super kick by Yang for a near fall. Both guys do the fish out of water spot a la Eddie and Dean, ending in a double clothesline spot. Gibson misses a second rope elbow. Yang hits a top rope moonsault press for 2. Jimmy tries to hit Yang time, which is basically a spinning, what did AJ call it? A spiral tap splash or something like that.
Yeah, it's like a full twisting 180 kind of. It's not like super. It's not like any of the shit that you'd see like as a forward fronting like multiple like 450. It's like a weird full spin. I'm not a.
It's like a Phoenix splash almost.
Yeah.
So he hits that. I don't know if that was meant to be the finish or not, but Gibson kicks out. Gibson then hits this. He hits a DDT into this awkward attempt at a Tiger Bomb, which he turns into a choke, but Yang rams him into the corner to escape. Yang tries a second time to hit Yang time, but only gets a 2. They're back up again. Gibson then hits a Buckle Bomb and then another Tiger Driver, and Yang kind of looked like he landed pretty awkwardly on the back of his head. Now, the ref claims he got his shoulder up at 2, but you couldn't really tell from the camera angle.
It looked like Noble's foot was like underneath his back or something, but this was a hellacious Tiger Driver.
So Gibson transitioned that into a guillotine, and again, slapped on a submission. Yang tapped out immediately. So, nice finish.
Right, and it was like that reverse guillotine hold. I don't know what he called it, but yeah, I like seeing the submissions. And in 2005, this was really before UFC was popping off and people really understood the submission finish, and the ROH crowd was right with it.
I think Gabe was a little ahead of the curve on this, and this was right about the time when Ultimate Fighter would have started. So they were going to be seeing a lot of submission finishes here. And I thought with Jimmy, it was a nice kind of swerve, because you think with Jimmy Yang making his ROH debut and Gibson on the way out, you think that would sort of telegraph the finish.
Yeah, I thought so for sure. I was like, well, this can't be it, and then boom, it was.
The crowd gives Gibson this big send-off, and that's one thing they always were really good at. So Gibson is in the ring, he gets the mic, he cuts this passionate promo, and he challenges Roderick Strong for his final match tomorrow night in Philadelphia. Not surprising, these guys I thought had great chemistry, and it's amazing just how watered down both guys became. But being able to see these guys pretty much unedited, it was just so refreshing.
What's Jimmy Yang doing nowadays?
We'll put him on the list of Wikipedia
Is he the cart guy at the convenience store?
I'm guessing based on his wardrobe, he is working at a Benihana's. We have, what's next? Oh, Homicide. Oh, so we're semi-main, Death Spot. Jack Evans and Homicide.
Yes, I just wanted to point out that this was Jack Evans versus a man whose name means murder. That's his name, Murder Man. Here he comes, and Jesus Christ, I would be scared to death to have a match against Murder Man because he looked terrifying, didn't he?
Murder Man sounds like a character from the old arcade pro wrestling game with Starman and
Oh yeah, Starman and Murder Man.
Murder Man.
Great tag team.
He's called the notorious 187, which is the code for first degree murder, and of course he was over like a motherfucker in this town.
Oh yeah, he was from New York, and Jack Evans was just an incredible athlete, just an incredibly wacky, zany dude. And you say this was like the death slot, everyone's waiting for the main event, but these guys made it work, man. And they were reckless as shit. And well, I mean, I'll let you get to some of the spots here, but this is where the dives into the crowd were like, oh my god, I can't believe they're doing this.
Yeah, Homicide during this time period, he was the living embodiment of what Taz in ECW was. And he's probably one of the top guys that I would legit be scared to mess with, even though he's physically one of the smaller guys on the roster. But his personality and his ring style are so big that you don't even notice this. And Evans got some heat early. I don't know if you noticed that somebody threw a hat into the crowd on the far side. Evans picked it up and he gave it to some fan on the near side of the heart camera. So this made Evans.
I didn't notice.
This made Evans a big heel to this crowd.
Because he gave the wrong hat to the wrong person or something?
I think his intention was to give it to someone different.
Oh, okay, to just be a dick.
And the crowd didn't like this.
I love Jack Evans. I think he's great, and I love his shit in CML and AAA, and I hope that he keeps being an awesome pro wrestler.
Yeah, they exchange some monkey flips, and then they have a dance battle.
Dance battles are always phenomenal.
Homicide gets into the floor. Evans follows up with that flip dive where he landed back first on the guardrail and then just collapsed.
Oh my god, this should have broken him in half, literally.
But good thing he's super bendy. So, to a normal man, this would have snapped their spine and they'd be in traction for the rest of their life. But not Jack Evans.
Like literally, you're like, all right, tell me the worst way you could possibly land on a guardrail. That would be middle of your spine, straight across it, perpendicular.
Yeah. After dropping from about a 6-foot drop.
Yes. And he's just like, nah, I'm good. I'm Jack Evans.
Yeah, I'm flexible. You can, Homicide then slaps him into a single leg crab where the bottom of Evans' foot was touching the back of his own head. And I thought the only thing that would make this better if Homicide was like hitting the back of his own head instead of just touching it.
Yep.
Does that make
sense? Kicking Jack in his own head with his own foot.
Like you're kicking yourself. You're kicking yourself like you'd little brother the guy.
Like, quit kicking yourself.
I'm not hitting you. You are.
Yeah. Mom, you're kicking yourself. Shut up.
Homicide, I told you don't kick your own brother with his own foot.
What do you think Homicide's brothers and sisters were named? Larceny.
Manslaughter. Well,
manslaughter.
Second
deadbeat dad.
Second child would always be named manslaughter because the second child is always secondary.
Right.
I know firsthand. We're diving into some emotional shit here, so
trying to traumatize the listeners.
Right. Homicide was going for this top rope back superplex. Everyone knows what that looks like. Evans fights it off with some stiff elbows. I should put over that Homicide's bandana still hasn't come off during this match. So he's super glued that bastard to his forehead. So Evans is in moonsault position. Homicide has his back turned. He's standing on the mat. He's facing away from the corner, but he's bent over. And Evans does this backflip and ends up just crushing Homicide with his ass and his full body weight. I don't know if he was trying for a DDT or a backwards double foot stomp, but whatever it was ugly.
I'll bet that they didn't really discuss how that was to go down. They were just like, I'll knock you off and then I'll do the backflip. And Jack was probably like, oh yeah, I'll turn this into like a 940 double stomp and it'll be awesome. And it was awesome, no doubt, but it was car crash awesome.
Homicide gets dropkicked into the front row again. Evans does another flip dive into the front row. These chairs that these fans are sitting on, they're not standard folding chairs that would easily fall over or collapse. They're like these big, heavy, one-piece banquet hall type chairs with no give. So these guys bumping into the crowd on these chairs is so dumb.
It's great for us. You said that the belly to back superplex. I've not, I've been in quite a few wrestling matches, professional wrestling. I used to do it, but I've not said no to many moves in my life. I said no to taking that move. I was like, absolutely not. There's no way you're dropping me backwards onto my shoulders from, 9 feet in the air. There's no fucking way.
When you have zero control.
Yes. Yeah.
I was sort of born and raised on, WWF syndication. So 92, 93, when Razor Ramon first started coming in, that was always his big setup move. And I always thought, I hope they pay these guys a lot to take that move. And then Bryan Danielson started doing it, but when Danielson did it, he lifted the guy up high, and then there was a delay, and then time froze, and then both guys just kind of fell backwards. And I don't know, who's taking these moves? They want to get paid.
Want to get paid, want to die, either way.
Evans attempts a top rope ace crusher, which is one of Homicide's trademark moves, and Homicide counters that with a top rope DDT, which again should be a finishing move, but Evans' foot reaches the ropes. Evans then counters the cop killer, and Homicide just kills Evans with a lariat, and then we see Thug Colt Cabana cutting a sick rhyme from the top of the balcony. He's dressed like John Cena. It was a very inaudible freestyle, because the audio on this show is not great. What I did catch is that he called Homicide Conan's bitch. Colt is a goofy ass cracker, and he calls him Nelson. Shoot, brother.
So Homicide's real name is Nelson?
Ha ha.
Yeah, Colt was awesome up here. He garnered a ton of heat. I don't know what jersey he was wearing. He was wearing looked like a Detroit Lions jersey, but I don't know what it was. Should have been some sort of Chicago thing maybe, but he was calling Julius Smokes and, they were just going crazy, just frothing at the mouth. This was in the middle of the match, and it was all of a sudden the mic turns on, you're like, who is this dude? And you can't really see him, but yeah, it's Colt up in the balcony, and this was a great spot, and it led to the finish.
So during the distraction, Evans just hits a reverse Rana and a roll-up for the win. So
it was great. Reverse Rana looked super sick. He jumped up, flipped him backwards. Homicide took it on the back of his dome, and then, a nice roll-up pinfall, and he got the win over. And that was Homicide. They were touting Homicide as being undefeated in New York City, so big win for Jack.
Yeah, I thought that this was a fun match. I don't think the Cabana, I understand why they had Cabana do this, but it was more of a fun match until Cabana turned it into an angle. Distraction finishes suck in WWE, and this I didn't think was any better.
But they only did one on the show. That's the key.
Right. If you're going to do it, do it for something that is going to prolong a long-term program. And this particular program, if you ever have a chance to see any of the Cabana Homicide matches, this feud would culminate the following April during WrestleMania season at Supercard of Honor in a Chicago street fight where the fans threw about 300 chairs into the ring. And Cabana and Homicide were doing superplexes onto stacks and stacks and stacks of folding chairs. And the visual of that made the ECW Public Enemy Terry Funk reigning table spot look tame. So if you ever have a chance, watch that show as well.
Oh yeah, I've seen that chair throwing spot in a few different indies, and this was, like you said, that match was 10 times as many chairs as the ECW fans threw.
So we're getting, right before the main event, we get another plug for the ROH merch website. They list the phone number to call. I actually tried to call the number, and I put it on my Twitter, @RowanUnra. You can check it out. The number is no longer in service, so I can't get my 2005 Generation Next t-shirt.
Oh man, that sucks. I'll see if I can get you one.
So
we got a lot of old ROH shit in this household.
That made me sad. I hope you have 5XL. We're not like in San Antonio 5XL, but just one notch below that.
Okay, all right. I'll see what I can do.
So main event time. The announcers have told us that they're leaving the booth so they can watch the match as fans. That was an excellent touch.
Excellent choice. Yes, this did not need to be discussed because there was not a lot of intricacies at play here. This was two monster men meleeing the hell out of each other.
So both guys are absolute gods when they're coming down. I guess I should mention, this is the main event, Samoa Joe versus Kenta Kobashi. I don't remember if Kobashi was the GHC champ at the time. Does that ring a bell?
I don't either. No.
Anyways, I watched this match twice. Once just as an observer, and then I went back a second time to take notes. And the crowd for this was on the edge of their seats for everything. The first time Kobashi hit that very first chop, they went nuts. From the fans' point of view, seeing him in this dream match against probably one of the top workers in the U.S. was such a treat for this crowd because that was their sort of homegrown guy, and no commentary was required.
This was one of the first times where I saw chops used effectively in a match to tell the story and build and like be valid as opposed to like just a punch to the face. And because I had not watched a lot of the Noah stuff or any of the Japanese stuff where Kobashi wrestled and this stuff happened all the time. And I was like, what's so special about this guy? Okay, chops. And then 25 minutes in, I'm like, this is the greatest match I've ever seen. And it was awesome.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans were sort of wondering if they were going to see the typical All-Japan Kobashi match. And when Joe hit that first tope, they knew they were going to get a solid, Budokan Hall-style Kobashi match. And because Joe's style is very much Japanese influenced, he probably also wanted to have that kind of match. And, you probably know from personal experience, when you get in the ring, you're hitting those ropes for the first time, or you're getting chopped for the first time, it just chews up your skin before, your body gets used to it. Joe is used to getting chopped, and his chest was all kinds of purple.
Yeah, I counted the one spot where Kobashi unloads. I don't know if you counted the chops, but I counted 86 consecutive chops.
That's exactly what I got here.
Yeah, it was awesome. He fired off like 25, and then takes like a breather, and then like 25 more, and then 25 more, and then a few more. It was great.
Mm-hmm. So Joe applied his Dragon Sleeper. They do a chop exchange, and Kobashi no-sells him, just giving him the Kobashi look. Joe hits the Kawada kicks, and the crowd loses their shit because they know the historical significance of that spot. Kobashi fires back. They spill to the floor. Joe hits the Ole kick with a seated Kobashi. Kobashi then comes back. He gives him a chop that sends Joe over the guardrail into the front row.
And the fans start chanting, "We can't see shit."
So Kobashi. Oh, sorry. Before that, the crowd all night has just been on fire. I have never seen so few people be so loud so consistently for so long. But there's one time in this show where there's a lull in the crowd, and that's when one guy would escape a submission. So Joe gets out of this abdominal stretch, and there was a hush over the crowd because they're so invested in the storyline of this match. This was an absolute 6-star crowd.
Oh yeah, and they just kept getting louder and louder throughout, and I was like, I really wish I could have been there that night. I heard from people who actually were there. They said it was just the unmatchable drama, and exactly what pro wrestling should be.
Kobashi kicked out of the Muscle Buster, which was absolutely unheard of at this time, and I thought that's a great example of a finish being protected for the right moment. When someone finally does kick out, the kick out itself becomes a high spot. Joe hits this powerbomb into the STF, and Kobashi is slowly, dramatically making his way to the rope, and just at the last second, Joe traps the other arm, sort of a Rings of Saturn, before Kobashi's foot reaches the ropes. It was a cool dramatic sequence, and the crowd is chanting, "Please don't tap." And then Kobashi hits the first of many dangerous-looking German or half-Nelson suplexes right on the top of Joe's head.
Oh, and on top of the head, these are some big boys. Joe's not small, and Kobashi's way bigger than Joe. And they were flinging each other around, and they were taking them way high on their shoulders and neck.
After that spot, that's when we get the what they call the machine gun chop spot. I guess, ROH lore would call it the 100 chop spot, but I think in reality, if we both count, it was 86 chops.
Yeah, those pussies couldn't get to 100.
Have you seen the video? The video's called the 100 Chop Challenge.
No.
Basically, it's some guy at an indie show, and he challenges 100 people to chop him, and he taps out after 50, so he's a pussy.
Yeah, well, I tap out after 2.
when Kobashi, he's laying in these chops, and then just as you said, he slows down a little bit. And then he speeds up again, and the place gets more and more crazy with every flurry. And I think that's an awesome mastery of crowd psychology. And then,
right. It was like, I can't believe they're going. I can't believe he's still going. Like, my arm was tired watching it.
He brings them up, and then he brings them down, and then he brings them back up again. And then he hits the second half Nelson German, and the look on Joe's face before he knew he was about to die. And he has this oh shit look on his face before he gets dumped on his head. And I forgot temporarily that Joe is alive in 2018, but in this moment, I literally feared for the man's life.
Yeah, this did not look safe in any way.
That wasn't even the worst one. And then Kobashi comes back with a sleeper, and then he has him in sleeper hold position, and then just lifts him up and drops him again on his head.
Again, do you think they talked that out in the back? Like, okay, brother, here's what we do. I'm going to bring you real close to death here, but it'll be all right. Then we'll do it again.
And Joe's like, you betcha. My neck will click for the rest of my life, but it's going to look good.
Yeah.
And then there's a great big giant clothesline, and that's the finish. And Joe is dead. He has ceased to be. I do love that a clothesline is still a finisher.
Well, it was in 2005, and that was a great finish. And it's just like, hey man, if you blast somebody across the throat and chest with a clothesline, yeah, you can put a man down for 3 seconds for sure.
This was one of the best matches I've ever seen. You get a lot of these matches that you go back and you watch and you think, well, in 2018, does this match hold up? This match more than holds up. I think the environment at the Manhattan Center made this awesome. TNA really had just started using Joe, and it didn't take TNA long to make him just a guy. But in this particular setting, props to ROH for their booking. They made this something so special, and the crowd left feeling like these were like the 2 legit best wrestlers in the world. I give this show a 10 out of 10 just for the main event alone.
Oh man, double thumbs up for me. Yeah, I'm going. I'll go 11 out of 10 because this might have been the best show I've seen in 2018, quite frankly, because I don't have the New Japan World or anything like that, so I haven't seen the Omega Insanity that everyone's creaming about. So this is the best match I've seen in the last calendar year for sure. So I'm giving it 11 out of 10.
Yeah, the show was well paced, nothing dragged. I watched this in one sitting, and I may go back and watch it again tonight.
Yeah, I was really thrilled to have it now, and I'm definitely going to check out the main event. This time I'm going to put it up on my big screen.
All right. Well, that's going to do it, everyone, for Episode 8 of Angry Marks Rewind. Peach Machine, I would like to thank you again from the bottom of my heart for coming on board and walking through this gigantic, wonderful moment in history. Where can people get a hold of you?
And I'm easy to find. I'm on Twitter at Peach Machine. You can hit me up there. Check me out on my website, comedysuplex.xyz. We've got a couple of different shows, Grappling Cooperative, Comedy Suplex Podcards. And yeah, more importantly than all that, hit my GoFundMe up, please. Drop me a couple of bucks. Snapped is what it's called. And I really appreciate you having me on, Rohan. And it's Rohan, right? Not Rohan, as Brian would say.
Rowan.
Rowan. Okay, Rowan.
As in Eric. As in Eric.
You know how you got tagged on there? I sent out the ROH, because I do the ROH TV updates for Wrestling Observer. I watch the show and do a recap like we just did here. And so I was trying to tag at ROH, and your name popped up and I was like, oh fuck, I'll bet he liked this. So, I just sent it to you randomly.
Oh, great. So you tagged me by accident, but it turned out to be okay.
Yeah.
Because hey,
it was great.
It led to my favorite review in the short history of Angry Marks Rewind. So everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, and I'll check out your shows on AngryMarks.com.
All right, everyone, that's going to be it, and we will talk to you later on.
You fucking suck, Azrael.
You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.